I pushed open my front door expecting a rare moment of peace, but found my daughter on her knees and a betrayal so profound it would redefine what home truly meant. The key turning in the lock was the sweetest sound in the world. It was the sound of a Wednesday pretending to be a Friday. My last meeting of the day had been canceled, a minor miracle that had me practically floating out of the office and into my car, dreaming of a hot bath and an early dinner. My husband, Mark, wouldn't be home for hours, and our daughter, Lily, would just be getting back from school. I pictured the three of us a rare, quiet evening with no pressures. A normal evening. God, what I would give for normal right now. I pushed the door open, a smile already on my face, ready to call out, "Honey, I'm home," like some 1950s sitcom mom, but the words died in my throat. The air in the house was wrong. It was still and heavy, thick with a scent I recognized instantly, my father-in-law's cloying, old-fashioned cologne. Frank. He must have used his spare key to let himself in. He did that sometimes, usually to drop off something from his garden or to fix something I hadn't even noticed was broken. It always rubbed me the wrong way, that casual ownership of our space, but Mark insisted his dad was just lonely since his mom passed and meant well. "He's old school, Clara," Mark would say with a shrug. "He just wants to be useful." I set my purse down on the small entryway table, my initial joy curdling into mild irritation. I wasn't in the mood for Frank's unsolicited advice on everything from my career to the way I loaded the dishwasher. I crept further into the house, listening. Silence. Maybe he'd just dropped something off and left? But no, I could hear a low murmur coming from the living room, a man's voice, Frank's voice. It was low, sonorous, like he was delivering a sermon. I was about to call out, to announce myself, but something held me back. A primal instinct, a tiny alarm bell ringing in the deepest part of my brain, the tone of his voice. It wasn't conversational. It was instructive, hypnotic. I kicked off my heels, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor as I moved toward the living room doorway. I peered around the edge, my heart starting a frantic, uneven rhythm against my ribs. And then I saw it, the scene that will be burned onto the back of my eyelids for the rest of my life. The afternoon sun streamed through the large bay window, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, creating an almost heavenly, surreal glow. In the center of that golden light, in the middle of our living room rug, my 15-year-old daughter, Lily, was kneeling. Her back was ramrod straight, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. Her head was bowed, her long blonde hair obscuring her face, but I could see the slight tremor in her shoulders. She was wearing her school uniform, her backpack discarded by the couch like a shed skin. Standing over her, silhouetted against the window like some twisted prophet, was my father-in-law, Frank. He had one hand resting possessively on her head, his fingers tangled in her hair. He wasn't stroking it. He was holding it, holding her in place. His other hand was gesturing slowly as he spoke, his voice the only sound in the suffocating silence. "And a woman's true power," he was saying, his voice a low, condescending drone, "is not in arguing or having opinions. It is in her grace, her submission. It is her duty to create a peaceful haven for her husband, to understand his needs before he does, to be pliable, moldable. This is the art of womanhood your mother, with her career and her modern notions, has failed to teach you." My blood turned to ice water, my breath hitched in my chest, a strangled, silent gasp. This wasn't a conversation. This was an indoctrination, an exorcism of her personality. I saw a single tear trace a path down Lily's cheek and drip onto her clasped hands. She didn't move. She didn't make a sound. She just knelt there, accepting it. Frank's face was serene, a mask of righteous conviction. He genuinely believed this. He saw himself as a savior, correcting the course of my daughter's life, a life he clearly thought I was ruining. He leaned down, his voice dropping to an intimate whisper that still carried across the silent room. A good woman is seen, not heard. She is a beautiful vessel, waiting to be filled with purpose by a man. Do you understand, child? Lily gave a small, almost imperceptible nod. That tiny movement, that gesture of surrender, broke the spell. The ice in my veins flash-boiled into a rage so pure and white-hot, it stole my vision for a second. The keys I had been clutching in my hand, forgotten until now, slipped from my nerveless fingers. They hit the hardwood floor with a sharp metallic clatter that echoed like a gunshot in the still room. Both of their heads snapped towards the doorway. Lily's eyes were wide, red-rimmed, and filled with a terrifying, hollow shame. But it was Frank's face that stopped my heart. He didn't look guilty. He didn't look surprised or ashamed to be caught. He looked annoyed. He slowly straightened up, his hand falling from Lily's head, and a thin, cold smile spread across his lips. It was a smile that didn't reach his eyes. A smile that said, "It's about time you got here. Now the real lesson can begin." For a second, the world was a vacuum. No sound, no air, just the three of us frozen in a hideous tableau. Then my lungs remembered how to work, and the vacuum was filled with my voice, a sound I barely recognized. It was low, guttural, the growl of a cornered animal. "Get away from my daughter." Frank's smile didn't falter. He simply took a leisurely step back, his hands rising in a placating gesture that was anything but. "Clara, you're home early. We were just having a talk, a little family wisdom." "A talk?" I repeated, the words tasting like poison. I ignored him, my eyes locked on Lily. She was still on the floor, looking up at me like a drowning person spots a lifeboat. I crossed the room in 3 strides, my bare feet slapping against the wood. I knelt in front of her, taking her cold, trembling hands in mine. "Lily, honey, are you okay? Look at me." She couldn't. Her gaze darted from me to her grandfather and back again, swimming with confusion and fear. She tried to pull her hands away, a flush of deep embarrassment coloring her pale cheeks. "Mom, it's fine. Grandpa was just—" "I know what Grandpa was doing," I said, my voice dangerously soft. I squeezed her hands gently. "Get up. Go to your room and lock the door. We'll talk later." I helped her to her feet. She was unsteady, like a newborn fawn. She cast one last terrified look at Frank before practically fleeing from the room. I listened until I heard the click of her bedroom door shutting, the sound of the lock turning. Only then did I turn my full, undiluted fury on my father-in-law. "What in God's name do you think you were doing?" I hissed, advancing on him. He didn't retreat. He stood his ground, a pillar of arrogant self-righteousness. "I was doing what you and my son have failed to do," he said, his voice maddeningly calm. "I was instilling some traditional values in that girl. She's 15, Clara. She's running wild. She needs guidance, a firm hand. She needs to understand her place in the world if she's ever going to find a good husband and have a happy life." Her place? The words were so archaic, so grotesquely offensive, I felt my hands ball into fists. Her place is wherever she damn well chooses it to be. It is not on her knees, listening to your twisted, misogynistic garbage from the 18th century. He chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. "You see? This is the problem. Your anger, your aggression. It's so unladylike. You're teaching her to be like you, a fighter, a career woman. You think that makes a woman happy? It makes her hard. It makes her lonely. Mark complains, you know. He tells me how difficult you can be, how you're always so tired, so stressed from your important job." A chasm opened up in my chest. Mark complains about me? To him? The thought was a physical blow, knocking the wind out of me. Frank saw his advantage and pressed it. "I am trying to save my granddaughter from that fate," he continued, his eyes gleaming. "I am trying to save my son's family. A man needs a wife, Clara, a soft place to land, not a business partner." "You will never," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "Speak to my daughter again. You will never set foot in this house again unless I am here. Do you understand me? You used your key for the last time. I want it back. Now." I held out my hand, palm up, trembling. He looked at my outstretched hand and then back at my face, and that cold smile returned. It was wider this time, filled with a pity that was more insulting than any slur. He made no move to get the key. "You really don't get it, do you?" he said, shaking his head slowly. "You think this is my idea? My little solo project?" "I don't care whose idea it is," I spat. "It ends today. As soon as Mark gets home, I'm telling him everything. He'll be horrified. He'll back me up on this, Frank. He'll throw you out himself." Frank's smile became a full-blown smirk. He crossed his arms over his chest, looking down at me as if I were a clueless child throwing a tantrum. He let the silence hang in the air, heavy and suffocating, before he delivered the final devastating blow. "Oh, Clara," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Mark already knows. He and I have been discussing Lily's re-education for months. It was his idea to start today." The world tilted on its axis. Frank's words didn't just land. They detonated, sending shockwaves through every foundation I thought my life was built on. Mark, my partner, my confidant, the man I loved. He knew. It was his idea. The rage that had been a bonfire in my chest was instantly extinguished, replaced by a cold, hollowing dread. I felt my knees weaken. This wasn't just my father-in-law's archaic poison. This was a conspiracy, a betrayal that ran deeper than I could have ever imagined. I stared at Frank, searching for a lie, for a flicker of deception in his smug face. There was none, only the triumphant glint of a man who had just played his winning card. "You're lying," I whispered, but the words had no conviction. The pieces were slotting into place with sickening clarity. Mark's recent comments about Lily's sassy attitude, his nostalgia for a simpler time, his insistence that his dad just wanted to be involved. It wasn't about loneliness. It was a planned campaign. "Am I?" Frank challenged softly. "Why don't you call him? Ask him yourself." My phone felt like a lead weight in my hand as I pulled it from my pocket. My fingers were clumsy, shaking so badly I could barely unlock the screen. I scrolled to Mark's name, my thumb hovering over the call button. I didn't want to know. God, I didn't want to know. But I had to. I pressed the button and put the phone to my ear, my eyes never leaving Frank's face. It rang once, twice. "Hey, babe, what's up? I thought you were working late." Mark's voice, so normal, so cheerful, was a knife in my gut. "I came home early," I said, my voice flat and dead. "Your father is here." There was a pause. Not a long one, but it was enough. It was a guilty pause. "Oh, yeah, he mentioned he might stop by to drop off some tomatoes." The lie was so bald-faced, so insulting, it gave me a surge of strength. "He's not dropping off tomatoes, Mark. He's re-educating our daughter." He had her on her knees in the living room, teaching her how to be a submissive little wife. "He tells me this was your idea." The silence on the other end of the line stretched into an eternity. I could hear his shallow breaths. I could picture him, sitting at his desk, running a hand through his hair, trying to formulate a plausible excuse. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost all its warmth. It was defensive, strained. "Clara, you're overreacting. Dad and I were just talking." Lily's been getting out of hand lately, and we thought, he has a more traditional perspective. We thought it might be good for her to hear it. Good for her? I screeched, all pretense of calm shattering. You thought it would be good for our daughter to be taught that her only value is as a beautiful vessel for a man. You went behind my back and conspired with this relic to break her spirit. Our daughter, Mark. Lower your voice, Clara, he snapped, his voice turning cold and hard. You're being hysterical. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You've made her just like you. That was it. The final nail. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't ashamed. He believed it. He believed I was the problem. He believed our daughter, with her bright mind and her fiery spirit, was a problem that needed to be fixed. Get your key, Frank, I said, my voice dropping to an icy calm. I turned my back on him, ending my call with Mark without another word. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. Put it on the table and get out of my house, Frank scoffed. This is my son's house. This is my house. I cut him off, turning to face him with a look so venomous it actually made him flinch. And as of this moment, your son is no longer welcome in it either. You have 5 seconds to leave that key and walk out that door before I call the police and have you removed for trespassing. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. He saw I wasn't bluffing. The game was over. With a look of pure contempt, he reached into his pocket, pulled out the key, and tossed it onto the entryway table. It clattered loudly in the silence. He walked past me without another word, a foul storm cloud of cologne trailing in his wake. I slammed the door behind him and threw the deadbolt. My legs finally gave out, and I sank to the floor, my back against the door, and let out a single, ragged sob. It wasn't a sob of sadness, but of fury and a terrifying, clarifying certainty. My marriage was over. It had been over for months, maybe years. I had just been the last to know. I didn't stay on the floor long. I pushed myself up, my movements stiff but purposeful. I went to Lily's room and knocked softly. "It's me, sweetie. Can I come in?" The lock clicked and the door opened. She stood there, her eyes red, her face a mask of misery and shame. "Mom, I'm so sorry." "Don't you dare be sorry," I said, pulling her into a fierce hug. I held her tight, breathing in the scent of her shampoo, feeling the fragile bones of her shoulders under my hands. "You have nothing to be sorry for. I am sorry. I am so, so sorry I let those 2 men think they had any right to do this to you." I pulled back, holding her face in my hands. "Listen to me, Lily. You are brilliant. You are strong. You are kind. You are not a vessel. You are the entire ocean. Do you understand me?" A real smile, watery but genuine, touched her lips. She nodded, a fresh wave of tears spilling over. "I love you, Mom." "I love you more," I whispered. "Now go pack a bag. We're going to a hotel for a few days. Then we're going to find a new place to live, a place with new locks." As Lily went to pack, I walked through the house, our house, which now felt alien and tainted. I saw the indentations in the carpet where my daughter had knelt. I saw the life Mark and I had built, and I realized it was a facade. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a placeholder, an agreeable woman from a bygone era. And when his wife wouldn't conform, he tried to mold his daughter into one instead. A cold, hard resolve settled in my bones. They wouldn't break her. They wouldn't break me. This wasn't an ending. It was a jailbreak. And as I grabbed my purse and waited for my daughter, I felt for the first time in a very long time, completely and utterly free.